Hey everybody, this is Lady Kaylah here with some more Game of Thrones reviews. This is Season 2, so welcome everybody. I will be having Season 2 reviewed on time. I have access to HBO Go now, so that is such a plus. And so let's start off with Episode 1 of Season 2, which I believe is called The North Remembers. I forgot to write it down. But anyways, we start off with Joff celebrating his name day, and what's more fitting for Joffrey than to celebrate with some to-the-death sparring? And so he's watching people kind of duel to the death. And what do we have here? We have Sansa save Sir Dantos, which is this fat knight, which he does not seem very much like a knight at all, but anyways, he's a drunken sort of a fellow, and Joffrey decides to make him drink to death. And Sansa actually saves him by saying, no, that's wrong, you can't kill on your name day. And Joffrey, first he's pissed off because she said no, but then he kind of, when she started to explain, was like, ugh, she's just stupid, whatever. But Sandor actually agrees with her, and you know that's something Sansa just pulled out of her ass. Like, she doesn't really believe killing someone on their birthday is bad luck. But whatever, Sandor actually agrees to that, which I think is really interesting and very notable. And so Sansa saves Sir Dantos by allowing him an extra day to live, and then also convincing Joffrey to allow him to be a fool instead of a knight. And this is just weird because like I'm really thinking Joffrey is a little bit nutty, because what Sansa said was just obviously something pulled out of her ass, and it's so obvious that he's being like flattered, yet he doesn't see why they're flattering him. Like, he has like an illusion that they're not, that they like really love him, or they really have him in their best interest. And I just think Joffrey's a little bit nutty. But Tyrion enters the scene, and he says hi to his nephews and his niece, and he can see that Sansa is um, being abused, and he sees what's going on. It's pretty obvious, and Tyrion is not known for his stupidity. He's actually very smart, so he sees what's going on, and he's the new Hand of the King. Tywin was named Hand of the King, and now Tyrion's taken his place. So I'm so excited because I know how smart Tyrion is, and I think he can help out a lot in King's Landing. And when he goes into the small council, we find out winter is literally coming. And in this time frame where they don't have a lot of technology, winter can be quite troublesome. And you even hear Peter Baelish saying they can only last for a 5-year-long winter. And so now we find out, well, Tyrion finds out, because I believe we already know this, that Ned's gone, Arya's gone, and there's only Sansa. And in this day and age, trading Jaime for Sansa is not going to fly. They need a lot more than just Sansa, sadly, because Jaime, he's next in line for the Lannisters, and I'm 100% sure that Tywin wants Jaime to succeed him rather than Tyrion. So we don't have an equal trade, because sadly women are not worth as much as men, and we find out there's only one Stark girl and one Lannister who happens to be the next in line. So yeah, things are not looking good there. Afterward, we have Bran acting Lord, which is kind of sad. He does have Maester Luwin to help him, but I think Bran's doing a pretty good job. He's a sad little boy, with loss of his legs. But this scene, I think, is quite pointless. We see him have another dream, and he's looking through the eyes of his wolf, which is cool and everything, but he follows the dream and when he awakens, and nothing happens. He goes to the spot where the wolf was, and just nothing happens. All we do is see a red comet, and I forget her name, but the wildling girl that they captured. Um, can you guys tell me her name if you remember? Sorry, dropped my notes. I forgot her name, but she says the red comet means dragons. But other than that, I think this is like a pointless scene because, you know, he followed where his wolf went, yet nothing happened. And all we found out was the red comet means dragons, which we already know that dragons exist. So, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty pointless scene. And of course, the next scene was Daenerys. And she's trying to get her dragons to eat. She really doesn't know much about them. And they look pretty tight. I can't wait for them to get bigger and start being more active in the storyline. But right now, Dany's in a pretty bad situation. She's in the middle of a desert, and so she sends her 3 um, blood riders off to different directions to find out what or where they can go. And after that, we have Jon, and we meet Craster and his little keep. And it's kind of a creepy place in many different ways. First of all, this man marries his daughters and then marries his daughter's daughters. And another creepy aspect is, where do the sons go? And he's just a creepy, hard man, but he has information that the Night's Watch needs. So um, the Night's Watch isn't going to mess with him or um, violate his rules, and he's very particular about his daughters, so he's a little nutty as well. But Jon kind of speaks out of turn, and he pisses off the Lord Commander for speaking out of turn. I mean, Craster is a key figure for the Night's Watch right now. He has a lot of information that they need, and so Jon pisses off the Lord Commander, and Jon does kind of have this bit of arrogance about him, and he really does need to learn his place before he can actually become Lord Commander himself. So we are beyond the wall. Nothing crazy has happened so far. We've only met Craster, but we do get some information out of him, and that information is Mance Rayder is collecting an army, and he's named himself the King Beyond the Wall, which apparently is a title he's been claiming for quite some time, which is weird because when we get from our wildling, or the wildling daughters of Craster, or wives, whatever, um, we see that the wildlings have this um, philosophy that they bow to no one. And the reason they're called wildlings and the reason they're so dangerous is because they won't serve under a king. They don't have a king. And so it's kind of ironic that Mance calls himself the King Beyond the Wall and people are actually rallying to him. So that's a bit odd. And then finally we meet a new point of view, which happens to be Stannis' point of view, and we see Melisandre doing her sorcery, but it's under the name of her god, so her religious voodoo stuff. I really don't know what to call it. I would call it magic, but it's under religious purposes, so miracles? I don't know. I'm just going to call it magic. So she's doing magic under the name of her god, and we see from one of the maesters there that he wants everybody to worship the seven. Obviously, just like in our world today, we don't like it when somebody comes in with a new way of life, a new religion, and tries to change something we've known for so long. And so this happens in a religion especially, and so if we just look on our world and how people react when religion gets infringed upon, we can understand how this maester felt and how probably some of these other people felt. But she is a scary lady, and her magic is not common. What she does is not common. She has a lot of power, and she is very scary. I don't know why Stannis is following her. I'm guessing it's because she had some sort of prophecy about him, which is what has to do with him getting this magic sword called Lightbringer. And so yeah. And we also meet Davos, and I like to think of Davos as Davos is to Stannis what Ned was to Robert. That's how I like to think of it. Davos is completely 100% loyal and honorable to Stannis and will tell him what needs to be said, regardless of Melisandre. Of course, he doesn't want to kill Melisandre. Like, he says to the Maester, like, what is the truth? You know, I think he doesn't really want to get into the religious aspects of things, but when it comes to um, getting an army, he's like, you know, your God's not going to get us an army. We actually need a literal physical army. And what's scary about Melisandre is the fact that she has magic, and I like the scene where, you know, this maester is willing to kill himself as long as he kills her as well. And they both drink from the same poison cup, and only the maester dies of the poison. And I just love how they did the detail from the books, because in the books her red ruby glows. It kind of pulsates, and it did that before the scene cut out, and I just thought that was totally awesome and crazy. Um, um, what am I doing here? So yeah, in the Stannis scene, we see him trying to spread the word that Joffrey's not the true heir, to rally for Stannis. You know, he's trying to get people to follow him. But we can definitely see why Renly said that Stannis will not inspire any love or any loyalty, because he's just a hard person. Like, I don't know, I could see him being too for the law, and I can also see him trying to force conversion um, religiously on everyone. So it doesn't seem like he would be a great king. I don't know. I'm definitely not for Stannis when it comes to him getting the throne, but that's my personal opinion. Um, So we have a Robb Jamie scene, and you know, just the awkward jibber jabber that goes on. And what I liked about this scene is how huge his direwolf is. And I don't know if the wolf was actually real, or if it was the dog, or if they kind of I'm pretty sure they enhanced it somehow, but I don't know if it was computer generated completely or what. But his wolf looks so much more wolf-like than Jon Snow's did. It looked like an obvious dog, and here Grey Wind looks actually like a wolf, and I like that a lot. So I'm hoping they enhance the other wolves like that and make them look more wolf-like, because that was just awesome. And then we have a Littlefinger versus Cersei spat, and it's just Peter has he thinks knowledge is power, and apparently that has worked for him. I mean, he's gone from the bottom to the top, as we find out in this scene. But Cersei is very kind of the typical power driven. You know, she finds power in wealth, power in arms, power in, you know, strength in numbers. Just the typical kind of greedy, selfish kind of power, where Littlefinger's more like knowledge is more important. So obviously they kind of clashed. And then in the other Robb scene, he sends, what are they, negotiations, or yeah, I'd call them negotiations. And he just basically asks for the bones of his father, the remains of the men that went to the south with his father, and then lastly he asked for the North to secede. And um, they seem pretty heavy. I don't think any kingdom would want such a big chunk to secede. But those were his negotiations, those were his terms, and I don't know, I think Robb is getting a little too ahead of himself. I mean, he has won a couple battles, but he still doesn't have everything figured out. And he, Theon Greyjoy, asks to leave so he can get his father to help, but Catelyn does not trust him. I really don't know why, because basically the Greyjoys saw the rebellion, Robert's rebellion, as a chance to break away, just like the North is doing now. And I'm pretty sure if they join the North and the North breaks away, the North will allow them to do their own thing and perhaps even fight for them to be able to break away as well. I think it would be a pretty good collaboration. I think it's a pretty good idea. But Catelyn really does not trust him. And then we find out here in this scene that Catelyn wants to go home to her sons, which is something I've been wanting her to do, just because I feel bad for Bran and Rickon. But Robert says that she can't because, not King Robert, well, he's King Robert now, but Robb, I call him Robb. I know, so confusing, but obviously King Robert is dead, and now we have King in the North Robert. But yeah, he wants Catelyn to negotiate with Renly, so he's going to send Greyjoy off to negotiate with Balon, and he's going to send Catelyn off to negotiate with Renly. So those are the plans right now. And they also bring up the idea that, you know, he can't just trade Jaime for the girls because, you know, the northern men, they're a lot harsh, and they're a lot harsh. They're a lot harsher than the southern um, houses and states, and so obviously they are going to be very strict on that rule. Like, you know, a man of the house, which would be Jaime, is not worth two girls. Like, that's just how they think. They're like, oh, they're just girls. It's one thing to trade Jaime off for Ned, but to trade Jaime off for two girls, that's a different thing. And it is really kind of sad because we love Arya, and even though we know she's not part of the trade because she's off going somewhere else, we, I don't know if we all, but I at least feel bad for Sansa. So it's sad that, you know, it can't just be an even trade because Jaime in this world is worth so much more than Sansa and Arya put together. And that's just sad, but that's the way it is in this world. And then towards the end here we have Joffrey asking about his mother and Jaime's relationship. And he brings up the fact that Robert fathered many bastards. Now, after this, we see all of Robert's bastards being killed. The woman that Ned visited in one of the previous episodes who had the baby and he, you know, was asking her about Robert, she has her child killed right in front of her. And as we can see, we've seen a lot of dark-haired kids getting their lives taken, and it's kind of sick. But I'm pretty sure this is Cersei doing it because Joffrey technically doesn't know about Jaime and Cersei, so if he sees all these kids looking exactly like Robert, yet he has none of the Baratheon features, it might ignite something. So I'm pretty sure it's Cersei killing off all the bastards, and at least that's how it was in the book. And on top of the fact that we saw earlier that she is in charge of, I believe it's Janos Slynt who is in charge of the City Watch, or the Gold Cloaks, whatever you want to call them. She's in charge of them, and they're the ones killing off all the bastards. So I'm pretty sure it's Cersei. I wouldn't put it past Joffrey to do it, but I'm pretty sure he's in the. Let me shut this off real quick. Hate when people call in the middle of a review. But anyways, I'm pretty sure it's her because she is in charge of Janos, and even though I wouldn't put it past Joffrey, I'm pretty sure he's in the mindset trying to convince himself that he has every claim to the throne and that he is trueborn and whatnot. And then we end the entire episode with Gendry, who we know to be Robert's bastard, and Arya moving along. And so Gendry is going to be important because he is going to prove what one of Robert's sons look like. And I don't think, you know, he himself can be so much proof, but who knows? It might be enough for a king to gain supporters. So he is very key pawn to have in this Game of Thrones. Many people would want to get their hands on Gendry. Arya, we see her with her hair cut off. She's following him. She's with Yorn, and they're on their way to the wall. So we shall see what happens in the next episode. Sorry for a couple of my distractions. I keep dropping my notes. I dropped them again. So look forward to my Game of Thrones Season 2 reviews. Like I said, I will have them on time. Oh, and a question. And a question. Oh my god, this person's calling me again. A question before we leave. Who do you want to come out of all of the players in this game right now? I so far decided to choose House Targaryen. I decided to choose Daenerys. She's the only woman, and I think she's very positive when it comes to women's roles. I have my reasons for not choosing the other ones, but I really don't want to get into that right now. Perhaps I'll do another video on that, but you guys leave in comments below who you guys want to come out on top in this sort of feud that we got going on. So, bye!